All right, so where we left off yesterday, I know we kind of had a tangent that we did for just a few minutes at the end of the period as you were coming back in from the library, getting those library books sort of situated, feeling the education, right? Feeling the weight of the knowledge that you're about to put in your brains, right? And just all at once. Wouldn't that be great, by the way, if you could do that? Just like if you hit your head hard enough on a book.
I think it would be easier to have be easier to have like that USB stick that you put in your head.
There you go. But hitting your head is much more. It's got a lot more imagery to it. So hopefully you've taken a look at those textbooks. You kind of see what pages I'm suggesting for you. We are doing prehistory, the prehistoric art, starting on Monday. So we still have a few days left to introduce the course, and then you'll hold those packets for next week as well. So we're slowing down this first packet, even though there's only 4 pages on it. It's going to be 2 weeks, so it's easy. But you want to make sure that there are sections of the packet, including the art in transition and the art at a glance, those kind of things. Those are things that you do independently, so they're like homework. So make sure that you are reading the text and supplementing from the lectures. That's typical. That's college level. All right, so coming back full circle, we were discussing the principles of design. And you guys, each of you had a very definitive opinion about what art is, and whether or not the picture that I had up yesterday, what was that picture of, by the way?
Graffiti.
Yeah, it was like kind of what kind of graffiti, too, if you were to make an adjective to describe it?
Dirty.
Yeah, it was kind of like the not so cool or not so popular type of graffiti too. So I was very specific to you guys can delineate that more. I'm not going to take your thunder. Tomorrow you're going to be doing what? Yeah, you're going to be doing like a Socratic seminar debate. Very good. Put +2 on your paper for remembering the term. Socratic seminar. You'll have each one of you in each team. So one person will go in a center. And I will put up that picture again, and you'll need to have that conversation about whether that is art or that is not art and why. And the outside team can discuss as well. So you're getting a little bit of input in a very formal way. That's where you're going to get points. Let me see, where else? Oh yeah, and then we finished before the library with discussing kind of some of what the principles of design actually mean. What did I suggest to you was what the principles and elements? Yeah.
Marks.
Well, we talked about the marks, how to write about art in a historical context, but also describing the aesthetic, etc. Yes.
Well, yesterday we were talking about the blueprints of a house, and then the objects that you put into a house are considered the principles and the elements of art and design.
Perfect. Put +2 on your paper for remembering the analogy too. Blueprints. A house, you have an idea of a house, and then you have the blueprints, which are like the principles, and then you have the stuff of the house, which are like the elements. Elements are like shapes, colors, line, form. It's the stuff of art that you would actually organize on your canvas in a certain way, and that's the principles of the blueprint. So that's what we're walking through today. We're finishing this up, going through each of the different types of principles. So you'll be very aware of this system by the time we're done. Why is this not working? Okay. Yeah. Okay, there we go. Perfect. Okay, and we walked through the marks, so we already have those. Let's start with our first principle, scale. Scale. There's going to be a couple different ones that have to do with size, and we'll have to differentiate between the two. But scale, very basic definition, is overall size. How big is the artwork? How might, just as a quick prediction, how might the largeness or the size of an artwork affect its meaning? Okay. I know you're awesome on this. I want to hear from someone from back here. What might the size of an artwork affect its meaning? Something's really big. What might that mean? Yes?
Like that person, like it's display some kind of emotion or feeling in it.
You can see someone's facial features. Say it's someone's huge face, and they're sad, or they're angry or concentrating. You can see their emotions more. There's a emphasis, okay, especially if it's like on a big, the head or the whole body is completely large. You can see something better. What else? Powerful. Very good. Something's large, it's powerful. Okay, why is largeness and power kind of equal? Why are they connected? You ever thought about that? That's what I'm trying to get you to think about, and you have to write about this stuff in art history. Give us a go. Why is largeness and power connected?
Well, in an artwork, I would think that something in a piece of work that is large is probably more important, or like in the way that the artist is displaying this one particular item in their piece of work, as to make it the perspective of. Oh my
you're
God.
getting there. No, you're getting there, and you're talking about a different type of size, which we'll talk about in a moment. Size in relation to other things, which hold that thought. Yes.
Bigger things are more noticeable.
It's very simple. Don't always overshoot stuff. When something's very large, who can see it?
We can.
Everyone can. Okay. What's a large statue that you know of? Very large one.
Statue
What?
of Liberty.
Say it. Statue of Liberty, right? Statue of Liberty is a large statue. It represents power. It represents liberty. It represents an emphasis on the ideals of America. And as such, it's large so everyone can see it, particularly people who were what?
In New York.
Maybe coming in for the first time, or people in New York, etc. So you get the idea. Scale is overall size. Now, if you were to see large works, they tend to dominate the focus for people. As you're walking through, for instance, the Louvre, and you see kind of tiny works, sometimes you don't even worry about them because they weren't for the context that they are now. Whereas a work like this by Géricault, which we will study, is meant to be this sort of super large, almost larger than life object, because the details inside that he's representing are meant to be larger than life concepts. These characters trying to be rescued from a shipwreck. It's called the Raft of the Medusa. And so it's large for the sake of the meaning of the word. So you got to think about size and scale. You call it scale, don't call it size. Don't say it's large, just say the scale is high, it's got a high scale or it's got a large scale. You want to use that word scale. So much of the impact of this painting, that is the Raft of the Medusa, is because of its large scale. Now, is that the only thing that makes a painting important or famous?
No.
No. In fact, sometimes the opposite is true. Right before Géricault's Raft of the Medusa is another work. It's about this big, and everyone crowds around it. It's in the Louvre. It's the Mona Lisa. Right before it. So it's an interesting thing that sometimes other reasons dominate over the importance or the idea of scale. Small works have another thing to them, though. And sometimes they're just as important. If you have something very small, something even that can fit in your hand, that's intricately detailed, and that it has such beautiful splendor and such tiny craftsmanship. Okay, like jewelry, very good. What are some of the things about like those small artworks that might be important as well? What kind of sense would it give you? Yes. They took their time. They spent so much on something so tiny. Why did they do that? Yeah. It's personal. Now I'm not thinking of something that's displayed for everybody, but it might just be for one person. That person might have been very important. Maybe that person, we don't even know who they are, but we have this amazing artifact of their life. Yes. You can both go. Go at the same time. Ready? No. Go ahead.
It's delicate.
Delicate.
It's it makes you want to like protect it.
Protection and delicacy is something so fragile, and fragility tends to be beautiful. What are things in the natural world that are fragile yet beautiful?
Glass.
Flowers.
Oh,
In the
stained
natural
glass.
world. In the natural world.
Flowers.
Flowers. Butterflies. Okay, that's yes.
Well, I think in this picture those are rocks. They look like rocks, but they might not be. But
Yeah. So, and these are actually like oil lamps and various types of little pottery forms, but they're early pottery from humankind. So you have these very intense, delicate things. It makes you want to lean in. Everyone kind of gets close to this. And in fact, everyone else, it might be other people doing it too, like getting close to something. And then you're intimate with other people as well, which is a kind of a cool
What
thing.
was finished?
I got to move on, or else we will never finish. Sorry, you're doing great though. So this is interesting. This is a good example of scale. What do you think's happening here?
It's being exterminated.
It looks like it's being exterminated. Very good. It's like a big tent over a big old museum in Germany.
Oh, they're remodeling.
You think so? You think so? But this is an artwork itself. It looks like it could have been like in a remodel or a termite thing. But these artists, it's a couple. This is what they do. They go into a place. They're commissioned to put a big tarp over something very, very famous. And they just put it over this large tarp so that it totally changes the context of the work. You see it for the first time, or first, like, sort of new. It's something old that's always been there, and all of a sudden you put a tarp on it, and everyone's like, oh, you're seeing it differently. And what are they, and in part, they're simplifying it, aren't they? You don't get to see all of the things that make it distinguished or distinctive. Instead, what are they simplifying? What is the main principle of design that they are emphasizing?
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, I was just going to say, to bring it back to, it's just structure that's simple, columns, and over a wall.
Perfect. It does simplify the basic elements of an architecture, doesn't it? Like, you see this thing here. Does anyone know what this is off the top of this? We'll learn it because it's Greek. It's pediment, right? So these pedimental structures. You have pinnacles up here, etc. So you have all of these basic forms, and instead of all of the other sort of textures and that sort of thing. But there's something else even more basic that we are all talking about. You can all say it.
Emphasis.
We're emphasizing what? It's scale. It's scale. This is emphasized. Do you see how it emphasizes the scale? All you're doing is seeing now how large something is. Have you ever seen a tarp that large before? Have you ever seen a building that large? Look at these tiny people as they get closer to it. Have you ever seen something that large get tarped? like as if it were termite damage. So you can see that this is a focus on the idea of scale. Christo is the official name of their art, but it's Christo and Jean-Claude, they're a couple, and they wrapped the Reichstag. That was the Reichstag. It's a very important building in Berlin, right, 1971. Wolfgang was the photographer for that. Now, he was asked by somebody, why is it that he wrapped buildings? Because probably like you, he thought of that and was like, huh? Is that art? What is that? Is that like termite? Is that construction? Well, and he replied that he made his work the size that they needed to be. So it's a little esoteric, a little mysterious. I make all my work the size it needs to be. So his focus is on scale. His work, meaning that all of his tarps are built so that they emphasize the scale of the thing that he's covering and hiding. Right. Scale changes the meaning of the word. What are the ways that scale impacts meaning? We've already talked about it. Did you write it down? Or were you just zoning in?
No, I was waiting for you to get to the next one.
What are the different ways in which scale changes its meaning? So just write, if it's large, what? If it's small, what? And just make sure you have those two things there. Very basic, simple way to analyze the aesthetic of an artwork. How big is it? Okay. Guys, you've known this your whole life. And it's so cool how the biology of sort of art development, we've sort of implicitly understood all this stuff. You're just giving it words. You're giving it words because you've been seeing it and doing it your whole life. All right, that was scale. Let's move on to another one. Proportion. Does proportion have something to do with size?
Yes.
Yeah. What if you were to try and describe that? What do we mean? Yes.
Relative size to things around it.
Perfect. That's actually perfect. +2, especially the word relative. I have it right there. Relative size, right? Relative size. Relative meaning if you compare two things. So proportion is when you look at one thing in comparison to the other. How large is the Statue of Liberty's head compared to its hand? Or how large is the Statue of Liberty compared to the surrounding island or another building? that might have something to do with proportion. You have internal proportions. You might want to subcategorize internal proportions, such as somebody's hand to their head ratio, versus external proportions. That is like how it is compared to where it was placed, like other buildings around it. Is it being consumed by large skyscrapers, or did they place it on an island where everything around it is what? Flat. And for the Statue of Liberty, how many of you guys have been there? Anyone? 2 or 3? Is it on an island, or is it consumed by skyscrapers?
It's on an island.
It's on an island. It's separate. So there's an emphasis there based on proportion and proportionality. Okay, so very good. Proportion and relative size. Now this is a really weird drawing from my brother-in-law, who now is an illustration teacher at Elsinore. But he was given an assignment to depict one of the 7 deadly sins. One of them is sloth. So this was his assignment on sloth. The character here, he's like old and he's getting he's like falling asleep during his manuscripts, and he's made a terrible mistake on his illumination. Now, this was meant to be an illustration that showed caricature and character. And why would this be a good example of something like proportion? Yes? He's got a huge head. That's exactly right. That is not in proportion, is it? But what is the reason for having it non-proportional or a different proportion system? Yes?
It's supposed to be closer to you.
Okay, so it's kind of showing maybe a foreshortening of the body. Maybe his head's like leaning towards you. Okay, it could be. Is it realistically leaning towards you, though? Yeah. What does it emphasize? Exactly. So it's directing your eye to a certain spot because it's disproportional, and this is larger or smaller? Larger, right? He suggested that he wanted the eye to be the big focus. Why are eyes important?
Because you see
that's the emotion of the art.
Yeah, when you look at someone or you're in a job interview or you're trying to impress somebody, what are you doing? Hey, how's it going, class? I just want to say we're doing the principles of design today. No, I'm trying to look into each one of your souls through your eyes, right? Because the eyes are the windows to the soul. That's a nice cliche. Remember that thought because it'll be important later. Eyes are a focal point, so that's why they're large here. He's trying to make them look like they're dripping like runny eggs or something like that, is what he said. So they kind of look like everything's like, oh, like they're tired. He's emphasizing a tired by removing certain normal proportions. This is what cartoonists do. You ever thought of Disney? Like Frozen or whatever, you see those characters? Do they have realistic proportions? No. They have these big heads, right, so you can see their faces and their eyes. They have those big eyes, and they look like they're innocent and baby-like, huh? You said something, that's good. Olaf has got that kind of like, yeah, he's sort of cute and cuddly, kind of stinted, right? Is he cuddly? I don't know if that's really, it's ice.
No. He looks like soft.
Looks like soft. At least it looks like soft. Create a sense of depth. You can also, with proportions, create a sense of depth as well. So you can have the idea of perspectives. Things get smaller and smaller and smaller. You can make it look like it's what? Going away or going back or disappearing. Yes?
Like at Disneyland, when they said on Main Street, they make the building smaller, so it looks like the road is actually longer than it is. And the castle.
Yeah, when you go there, go check it out. And that's exactly right. Your buildings are a little smaller, but not in like a weird cartoony way, just in enough to make it feel like there's more space. People have been manipulating you for so long.
In the castle too.
No longer. You're gonna start noticing these things as you leave this class. You'll be able to be aware. No more are people manipulating you because you understand it. Proportions can be used to create emphasis, to create unexpected relationships between two things if you're wanting to. Unexpected, like a cartoon. In this case, he wanted to emphasize his sitting, so he kind of splayed out the butt a little bit.
Yeah.
Made it about the same size as the head, or parts of the head.
You can see the head.
You can just see the head. De-emphasizing his back, so it looks like he's all not able to really sit up straight. Here's some kind of creepier words. We're getting closer to October. Hopefully, I don't want any more heat. So there's some really cool stuff that goes on with more like creepy stuff. If you ruin the principles of design that give us harmony, you can give us senses of tension as well. Yes?
Well, you put those whatever things in the back to make them smaller than the scarecrow. To make it seem like it's
Very good. So the proportion of the scarecrow to these things in the back, like it's like a fire, it's like a strange fire or smoke or something that you can't see, as well as the flatness of the horizon, it gives you a sort of an ominous mood, right? That sort of dark mood, dark night, emptiness kind of stuff. Proportion impacting this charcoal drawing. What else? Yes?
Well, I was just going to say, like, there is a white bird and a black bird kind of somewhere.
A light bird and a
White
oh, very good. Some symbols there. So maybe there's something to do with the proportions there. Which one's bigger? The black one. So maybe the black one is like a predator type thing. So there's elements there. By the way, if you have something to add and you just want to throw it out there just as a comment or whatever, please do. Just anyone who wants to throw stuff out, you can. You don't have to wait for the hand stuff. Sometimes it'll be good to do that. I'll say raise your hand, but other times I just want you to shout it out. Just to participate. So I want to hear from everyone. I want to make sure I'm going to start doing like tables. Got a couple, like 6 or 7 people that are really on it right now. What is this?
Scale.
Oh, who I should say who painted it or who drew it? Not Michelangelo. Good guess though. One of the other ninjas. Leonardo. There you go. Put plus 2 to be back. Leonardo da Vinci. Did you say Leonardo? You guys hinted that too. I don't care. Doesn't matter. Points for everyone, right? Leonardo da Vinci. Everyone's like, yes, actually, I looked at this points. Leonardo da Vinci, Vitruvian Man. What is this depicting? And how does it relate to proportion?
Body size.
Body size. Okay, body size in relation to what?
The body.
Well, the head in relation to other parts, and that's true. So there's internal stuff, but there's something external too that might be...
The shapes, there's squares.
Yeah.
It's inside. One is inside a square, and it looks like one is actually inside the circle.
So what Da Vinci is attempting to discover or rediscover in the Vitruvian Man, Vitruvian, by the way, is not the name of the man. That's the name of the artist in Rome that Da Vinci is copying. Vitruvius is a philosopher. And Vitruvius believed that humans were sort of the measure of mathematics. That all mathematics was implicit in the human body. And so we have an external proportion of a circle. So when we articulate our shoulder blades, everyone do that right now. Stretch for a second. Oh, good, guys. You guys make a circle like the horizon line. Your legs, too. If your legs want to go up a little bit, you can make a whole circle with your body. Okay, so that, very good. Okay, so like, okay. I'm tired. You are a mathematical entity. You are not just a person, but a mathematical concept. And I think that's part of the proportions here. Everything about your body is in proportion to itself. We'll talk more about that very, very slowly. Do lots of activities on it when we get to it. This is just a quick introduction, okay? So the use of proportion and unity, balance, emphasis, all this stuff, it works together. Biggest thing that proportion does, though, is that it creates an emphasis. But you should write all 3 of these down. Balance, direction, we'll talk about those in turn, but proportion does a lot of emphasis. It creates emphasis, and it tends to create a lot of a sense of direction, where your eye is going to travel on the page. Of course, it shapes the work's meaning. And that's why when you do the marks, the A and the R are right next to each other. When you develop your principles of design, you will also need to talk about what those principles represent. So that's proportion. Let's go to unity. And its opposite, which is variety. They kind of work together. It's actually kind of an x-axis, if you will, like a gradient. How much unity is in the work versus how much variety is in the work. Unity. You'll need another, and that's all right. If you need another sheet, as many sheets as you want as you learn to sort of consolidate
Oh
the
my
text.
gosh.
Yeah,
Look at all
it's
the
like-
different flavors.
100 bottles of soup, blah, blah, blah. Is that it?
Yeah, basically.
What is it?
Anyone know the artist, by the way?
Campbell?
Any upperclassmen might know this. Might be super cool to know.
Wait, we'll do
Andy Warhol.
that. We'll do that.
I asked who the artist was. But soup kitchen cans doesn't seem like much of art, but we'll talk about it. It's modern weird stuff, right? That modern weird stuff. He's painting cans of soup and then putting them in. He's got enough of them, it makes it artistic, right? Anyways, I'm putting it in a different context. But we see here a sense of unity. Even though all the works have different names there, what's unified about it?
Same brand.
It's the same brand. There's a brand, there's a logo here, and there's a repetition of form as a result of that. You're letting us know now that the label is consistent, it's unified, it's the same. That life, in terms of Andy Warhol, is about sort of this consumer uniformity. We all are wearing fairly similar clothes. You notice that fashions change every 5 years or so. You guys have a sense of uniformity. You want to be like everyone else. See how, okay, so we're connecting meaning back into this concept. But when we do repetition, or we try and have uniformity or a unity, we get a sense of a pattern, a certain sort of expectation. And so as an artist develops these patterns, they're able to sort of manipulate, or I should say just they inform you of their ideas by doing this. So they repeat it enough, and it creates sort of an expectation. What's nice about that is that because there's an expectation, and if this person really is enjoying the unity in their work, they're trying to create unity, and you have a very nicely finished expectation, the work itself, you kind of look at it and go, that's really nice. That's a nice work. Okay? Because the expectation has been met. It feels finished. Unity. Unity is important. If a work sort of has like half the face sort of cut off a little bit off the edge of the canvas because they didn't put it, or like a selfie that's gone wrong, right? Like half the eye, or your grandma's taking a picture, like it's going to be terrible. You're just waiting for like 20 minutes for her to figure it out. It's going to be a bad picture. It's probably because something like unity is missing. There's a break in the expectation. All right. So, and we'll talk about that in detail in the future as well. The Greeks were big into unity, things having a unified form or a unified canon. Okay? So an example would be a section. They literally took an entire section, like a cutting of a cake, and splitting it up of the, what is this? Does anyone know?
Is that the
Close. Parthenons. The Parthenon from Athens. Because the British Empire owned everything at one time, it seemed like. They took it like a piece of cake over to their fancy museum to preserve it. What's kind of sad or ironic is that this piece of cake version of the little chunk of it that they kept is actually in better or worse condition than the original.
So that's not the
It is the original, but it's not the rest of it. So the rest of it's still there. It's a big building in Athens. It's actually falling apart
So this is part of it.
in its place. Then this one's preserved. Anyways, it's ironic that they preserved it even though they destroyed half of it. I'm pulling it over here. Anyways, there's unity here in the sense that you have the proportions of the buildings and the concepts of math with the building connected to what other element in this work? Or what other subjects in this work?
mythology?
Yeah, you have
Culture.
very good. All those are good ideas. But think of something just very simple. You have buildings. What are the two things that you have in this building? What are the two subjects in this thing? You have a building and what?
Columns. Angels.
Yeah, like sculptures. You have people and buildings. And both of them are unified because they're both utilizing mathematical concepts. You are a mathematical ratio. So is a building. And so the two are connected by a canon. So there's unity. And we'll talk about that again. I know that's a little mysterious or esoteric or whatever at this point. But when you develop
Oh my god.
Unity enough, an expectation. You can also manipulate, just like Andy Warhol. And this is what the artists are sort of all about sometimes. And in fact, going back to our sort of creepy works, why does this work have subtle variety? And what effect does it have? Yeah.
It's kind of creepy because they're
Okay. Yes. What else?
It clearly shows the height difference between the girl and he's the boy behind the other.
Okay.
guy.
So they're two children, and otherwise the expectations are met about what they are to look like. The patterns are there, but we have just a subtle difference there. Instead of having sort of this a normal mask, there's something just a little bit off about it. There's a little bit sense of variety to it, and it just kind of turns into sort of a creepy thing. So they have this rabbit mask that's sort of just changing that head down a little bit really changes things when it comes to the emphasis and variety of the work. All right, we'll talk. I know this is you're probably all like, I'm not sure if I could use that language or describe it like you're doing. We'll get practiced at it. Okay, so on Friday we will be practicing these things. So just to know that. Variety, on the other hand, creates a sense of excitement, conflict, and chaos. So conflict. When you have a lot of variety to a work where your expectations are constantly broken or changed, you can often feel a little bit uneasy. But that's an important feeling as well.
Mr. West,
Yes?
you put the other two times.
Did I do
on
something wrong?
the other hand.
Variety, on the other hand.
Variety on the
Right,
other
You guys
hand.
get the idea.
Oh, on the other hand. I said the other twice. Thank you. Put +2 in your paper for practice. I didn't know we could get points for production.
It's about conflict.
You're going to be that spelling Nazi, aren't you?
I don't know.
Calm down. I'm going to walk away now. Keep going if you're going to start figuring out all of my spelling errors. This Prezzies don't do spell check, so I'm usually really good at spelling, but I also kind of need spell check too because I type really fast. So just calm down. Okay.
Can you go back, please?
No. Variety creates a sense of what?
Excitement, conflict, and chaos.
There you go. Excitement, conflict, and chaos.
Shiny.
Now, it doesn't mean that everything's going to be conflict and chaos. It could just be excitement. Like, for instance, Baroque, Renaissance, these art movements that are around like the 15th, 16th, 17th century that loved lots of decorations. The more decorations and the more paintings and sculptures you could fit in a space, the better it was, the more variety. Because variety, if you have a lot of different things, what meaning can be developed in that variety? Think of someone's house that has like lots of like memorabilia on the wall, or I should say like maybe lots of trophies, a student's room with lots of trophies on it versus someone's room who doesn't. What might be the difference between those two people? Yeah, so one has some sort of accomplishment, and the other maybe is, is got good looks. I don't know. It doesn't. I don't know. But you get what I'm trying to say with that. If you have lots of stuff, lots of variety, you can seem like you're more luxurious or wealthy or important. So there's a meaning behind even things that have lots of variety. It's supposed to bedazzle you. Oh, there's a lot of stuff to look at. Now imagine that, like looking at something like this, not being in our 21st century context. You step out of your shoes for a second and think about it from people who literally lived lives in wooden buildings, little hovels. We didn't have an iPhone to look at whatever picture of anything in the world that they wanted to instantly. And all of a sudden they walk into a place where someone spent 50 years designing and fixing and perfecting. The first time they've ever seen anything. Their minds explode, right? That's exactly right. And that's what variety is supposed to do. It's supposed to accomplish that.
Oh my.
Really weird, creepy picture. Can you guys see these okay? We need to turn off the lights. I didn't even ask that.
I know that. It's fine.
No,
Can I turn on the lights just make sure it's like, is it too dark?
That's all.
Yeah, I'm sorry about that. I should have told you. You probably thought been getting headaches right now.
That's
Oh, it's really makes hot.
that's like a drumstick.
I apologize for that. So this one is another 7 deadly sin. And he used a word. He had to have a word at the top that went with it. So this word is rapacious, like gluttony, you know. So this person's rapacious. He's just like grabbing with lots of hands. Notice the variety to the work here. Obviously, there's caricature elements as well. There's a repetition. His hand, in an unrealistic way, all these hands are grabbing at different things. Is telling a story. It's not realistic, but it's telling a story, right? It's telling a story about this character who can't stop eating. So interesting work again for my brother who's got a weird, it's got a weird tone to his work. A lot of strange stuff. Yeah, interesting weird stuff. All right, that was unity and variety as a subsequent thing. Back down to the notes here. Balance. Balance will probably be your first sort of go-to principle when you look at an artwork. In part because you've probably discussed balance in the past, and there's a lot of easy ways to talk about balance. Okay, balance can feel like, you know, when you're off balance, you're trying to balance on one foot, perhaps. You put your hands out so you have equal weight on both sides. In the same way, on a piece of paper, on a canvas, you have equal visual weight, or I should say, equalizing, or how that balance works, how that visual weight operates in a work. So just as if you were to all stand up, I don't know if you guys should do that or not. You're like, yes, I can stand. You guys all know how to stand up on one foot, right?
Yeah.
And then, yeah, so you don't all know. That's repetitious. Okay. Yeah, so if you were to stand up on one foot, you would feel all of a sudden your weight needing to change. Now, if I painted somebody standing on one foot, kind of the same thing would happen if you were to all paint me now. You would be developing a visual weight on both sides, representing my balance or lack thereof. If I'm like, off balance, right? And you would feel that painting. You would feel that balance or off balanceness just by looking at the painting. Because that's what we do as creatures. We look at things and we feel the balance of them. Is this work balanced or is this work not balanced? Take a look behind you at the poster right here. Okay. Is this work balanced or off balance?
Balance.
Balanced. Why?
Because he's sitting clearly comfortable, not like tipped over.
Okay, so if I were to, yeah, exactly. So he's sitting, he's in a sitting position, and that sitting position feels like there's no leaning in one direction or another. Okay, so what would we call this kind of thing where something feels equally balanced? Yes.
I was gonna say, like, how do you know he's not like balancing himself with that one hand, like usually like a basketball?
Oh, you mean balancing on his hand?
No, the other.
Oh, you mean like his hand? His everything. His entire body is being. Does it feel that way though? Even if that were the truth, that's not what the sculptor is attempting to convey to us, is he? So clearly that there's a heaviness to the bottom of the work, right, as opposed to the top. So he's connected to something. He's connected to a base. He's also has his hands in a very calm, but even though there's some variety there, there's still a balance to the way he's using his arms and hands. There's a relative balance there. And in general, what would we notice about visual weight if we were to develop this based on the left and the right?
It's centered.
It's centered, and then it's equal. Oh, there's the word symmetrical. Put +3 in the paper. Okay. Symmetrical. Symmetry is very important to the idea of balance, whether something has the equal visual weight or not. Now, does symmetry, is it only to do with humans? No. Does it only have to do with even living things? No, symmetry is a concept. And you can do it with shapes, just random shapes as well, also have visual weight to them. Let me ask you something about color. Does lighter colors or darker colors have more visual weight? Which one do you think?
Lighter.
Which one has darker? Which one has heavier visual weight? Darker colors or lighter colors? Darker colors. Why?
Because you get a heavier emotion out of it.
Get maybe these deeper saturations, perhaps, maybe a bigger connection, something. But for whatever reason, symmetry can often be accomplished through light and darks as well. I'll show you that in a second. Symmetrical. Symmetrical is what we call formal balance. When something is formally balanced, it is giving us a certain meaning or a certain feeling. If something's formally balanced, what kind of meaning or feeling does it give? Yes?
Like a neutral feeling that everything's like just smooth and kind of just even.
Yeah, you're getting there. It's like it's at rest, right? There's rest involved. This is feeling secure. This is feeling sturdy and steady. Again, back to the Buddha right here. This character is not meant to be violent. It's meant to be at peace. And formal balance does that. And the same thing goes. You notice this is even older than that Buddha, and from a completely different country, but they both have in common formal balance. Okay, these are cycladic figures. You guys read. Oh, you guys will read the Odyssey, right? So Greek. So we will learn about that culture that Odysseus comes from, right? Odysseus comes from these cycladic cultures. These are religious figures, and religion is so important to people, isn't it? And formal balance is very important to religion, because what ultimately are people deriving from religion, whether or not it's true or whatever? I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about what people derive from religion. Why do people do religious things?
For a sense of meaning.
Sense of meaning?
I would say explain what their reason behind something.
Explain, so justifying themselves, yes.
A peace of mind.
Peace of mind, right? So formal balance will be very important to religious works because you're trying to get people to be at peace. Here, know that because of our religion and because of our religious infrastructure, you are going to feel at peace. And these are, of course, characteristically religious and funerary. These have been placed at people's graves. They are at peace. They represent the human form, basic human form, but they are formal balance. Same with the Buddha in the back. Thailand, in the Southeast Asia, big into balance. The lotus position, everything in balance with itself and harmony. Okay? So you'll see these same ideas, and we'll do a whole thematic unit on religious narrative. So we'll learn all about what religions accomplish, what people do with religions, and the different types of stories that have similarities to them. And how they crop up in our
style when it comes.
Now, if I had something asymmetrical, all of a sudden I can kind of mess with that tension a little bit, like these other creepy charcoal works, right? So instead of having formal balance, instead I have a 3/4 view underneath the house. So everything's not, where's the balance? Where's the symmetry here? There's not so much symmetry, but there is visual balance. There is a balance. It's just asymmetrical. How is it balanced still? How is this work balanced? This is where it gets a little bit more difficult, isn't it? Yes?
The bird, the lightning, and the house are all going down.
You have this visual weight on this side, but you have an isolated form on this side with a dark object over far enough to where the works are fairly balanced. Okay, so there's a balance to your eyes. It doesn't feel like there's too much of weight on one side. Even though a house is heavier, I understand, than a bird, but just putting the two things in position on the work give it its own balance, albeit asymmetrical. Another example of that is this painting right here. The Eiffel Tower and two people jumping. Which one's heavier in real life?
The tower.
Okay, but in this work, they take on equal visual weight. And so therefore the work is fairly balanced. This person should be over just a little bit more. But it's just me being critical of my own work. Alright. That's asymmetry. Same thing, asymmetrical balance can also give you a sense of movement and rhythm. You go, get your nose going. So that's asymmetry, asymmetrical. Asymmetrical balance does not need to be disharmonious, though, like our non-harmonious. Because you have the discobolus. It's all asymmetry, but asymmetry can give you a sense of what? Movement, right? If you're running, all of a sudden there is asymmetry. But if I'm trying to depict someone running or moving, that is a good way to do it. The lines involved with running are these diagonal lines, which are inherently asymmetrical. And all of a sudden you're going, or you're feeling like going. We'll continue this after Socratic seminar tomorrow, so you'll have about 30 minutes to do your discussion, and then we'll finish. Friday we'll do an activity. with the principles of design. Read those sections on your own, pages 1 through 13, please, so that you're getting a little bit more involved. I want to hear from you guys more, not just from the same 4 people that I can tell are engaged. I want the rest of you.
Some people